First of all, thank you to all of you who watched my video last week. It's apparent there's still a lot of love out there for the Inspire 2 platform. So let's take it up a notch and talk about Sony's Airpeak S1 and see how it compares. So stick around, I'll give you my thoughts. Now, Sony's Airpeak S1 was announced last year at the Consumer Electronics Show in June. Weren't many specs on it, a couple of videos of it, really not much information, and I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But it's now available for pre-order, and we've got a few more specs on it. Let me start by saying this is a drone I'll never own. It's not even on my wish list anywhere. It's too expensive, occupies too small a niche in the drone business. But it's fun to look at. Just like I like looking at hypercars and supercars from the likes of Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, and so on. They're fun to look at, even though I'll never actually own one. But I did have the opportunity to own my bucket list car a number of years ago. It was a Ferrari 308 GTB. It was the last of the carbureted cars, had 4 two-barrel Weber carburetors on it, made this wonderful induction roar. Coupling that with that screaming V8, it was a fun car to own. And I owned that car for about 3.5 years. And there's kind of a funny story about why I sold it. And no, it had nothing to do with mechanical issues. That was probably one of the most reliable cars I'd ever owned. But if you want to hear what that story is, let me know and I'll tell you later on. So on to the Airpeak S1. Now let's take a look at the specs over here. First of all, dimension-wise, they say it's about 25.5 inches diagonal wheelbase. Well, that's almost identical to the Inspire 2, so you can tell what size package we're looking at. They give us the overall dimensions there. How about aircraft weight? Well, they say it's 6 pounds, 14.9 ounces without battery packs. That doesn't mean much to us. But if we look down at takeoff weight, approximately 15 pounds, 7 ounces. Okay, that's a usable figure. And when you compare that to the Inspire 2, the Inspire 2 is about 9.5 pounds, so considerably lighter. If we look at max speed, it says 55.9 miles an hour, but it says without payload. So we don't know what that speed is with payload. It could be considerably less. And if you remember, the Inspire 2 is about 58. If we look at wind resistance, this is a good figure. It says wind resistance 44.7 miles per hour, but again, without payload. So how much does that payload affect the wind resistance? Then I think a biggie is this max service ceiling at 8,202 feet. That seems like a lot, but what if you own a production company and you're doing a documentary, let's say in Quito, Ecuador? Well, Quito, Ecuador is slightly higher than that 8,202 feet, which means that drone would not take off. Or how about La Paz, Bolivia? That's 11,900 feet. The drone would not take off. The Inspire 2, however, if you put on a set of special props, goes up to 5,000 meters, or roughly 16,000 feet. So it would take off there. But look at flight time. Approximately 22 minutes without payload. Okay, well, that's a useless figure. I want to know what it is with payload. And they tell us approximately 12 minutes with the Alpha 7S3 and a 24 millimeter lens. 12 minutes. Now, you know we got to have a reserve in there. I like to have about a 20% reserve, which in this case would be about 2.5 minutes. Meaning that I've got about 9.5 minutes of actual flight time. Now, if you remember last week when I talked about the Inspire 2, I said I had 27 minutes of flight time. Actually, it's more like 24 minutes since I upgraded to the X5S gimbal and lens. But I thought I could work around that by using a smaller drone, flying my route, scouting my route, then coming back and using the Inspire. But 9.5 minutes, that doesn't give me a lot of time right there. I'd like for you to let me know if you think that's a usable time. And I guess Sony's put a lot of money into this and feels there's somebody out there that'll be able to utilize that. Transmission range, another issue. They've got 3 frequency ranges from 2.4 to 5.8 and 1 in the middle. But if I read this right, at 2.4, we're at 1.2 miles. At 5.25, we're at 0.6 miles, and the 5.8 range, we're back to 1.2 miles. That's pretty short also, and I have a concern about that. Vision sensors are pretty good on that. Stereo camera direction from front, back, right, left, and downward. Infrared, up and down, so that's good. It also has an FPV camera, just like the Inspire 2, meaning that you can have a separate pilot flying the drone while the cameraman works the gimbal. That's a good thing. So let's look at pricing. Go to B&H Photo here, and you can see for 1 cent less than $9,000, you can have this drone. But what do you get with that drone? Well, let's look at what's in the box. You get the drone, the remote controller, 4 props, or basically 1 set, 2 batteries, basically 1 set, your battery charger, landing gear, calibration board, power cable, control cable, miscellaneous cables, and a 1-year warranty. What don't you get? Well, you've got to use your own camera and lens. You got to buy a gimbal. And as near as I can tell, you don't even get a case with this. So if we take our $9,000, add in $2,200 for the gimbal, then if we look at that A7S III and a 24mm lens, that's about $5,300. We add that in at least 2 sets of batteries for another $1,000, at least 2 sets of propellers for $400. You're at $18,400 right now. And this doesn't include your SD cards, ND filters, any other kind of stuff you want there. So as far as I'm concerned, you're looking at about $20,000 right there. If we look at the features of the Airpeak, so much of this is marketing hype here, and they don't give us a lot of detail. You can go to the Sony site and scan through it and read all this stuff and see their videos. But we get very little data other than the fact it's going to have a cloud surface. It's got an app that will give us some autonomous modes. Just really not a lot of detail on that. So go to the Sony site. You can read through all this, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about there. This is all marketing hype. Intuitive controls, versatile camera and lens capability, automated flight for workflow efficiency. So we're still waiting for a lot more detail on this, and I'm sure that'll come later on. One thing I did want to point out is when you look at the drone itself, look at the legs. These are spindly little T-bone legs that fold up out of the way, not nearly as elegant as what's on the Inspire 2. Same thing for what I call the fuselage on the Inspire 2. I think it's a much more elegant design than what you got on the Airpeak. I know that's not functional, but it's something I notice. So there you have it. Where does this drone fit in? Well, if I look at it, I would say if you own a production company or if you work with production companies, maybe there's a possibility you would like something like this. And I'd love to hear from any of you out there that, number one, see an option for this or would actually consider using it. And furthermore, because of its limited range and flight time, I see this being used on a closed set somewhere. I hope you're still enjoying these videos. If you are, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And if you feel like sharing it with your friends, please do so. That would be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you so much for watching.